We're recording.
Thank you. So welcome today, and on behalf of the Community Affairs Committee, the CAC, welcome to today's webinar on strategy planning for STC SIGs, Communities of Practice, COPs, and Communities of Interest, COIs. My name is Ann Marie Queeney, and I am the CAC Chair and today's presenter. All attendees have been placed on mute, but the question panel is available for you. So, please type your questions in, and Erin Galilee and I will monitor the panel. And I also will stop at specific times during the webinar to see if there's questions. And we will have time at the end for Q&A and some info sharing. So I've been a member, a volunteer, and a leader with SIGs my entire 10 plus years as an STC member. And so some of my positions, I've been a program manager, membership, and a SIG manager. And so I'm passionate about SIGs and their value for members, professionally and personally. I personally have made some great friends, advanced my career, and learned a lot about TechCom just through my participation. So I'm excited that you're here and that you've also volunteered and you've shared the passion for STC, special interest groups. So before we go over the topics, I did mention at the beginning that this webinar is going to cover communities of practice and communities of interest. But while both SIG community models are virtual and focus on a specific TechCom topic, there are distinctions. So I wanted to briefly describe the SIGs for those of you who may be new to the SIG model. Now, the SIG communities of practice, or COP, they provide a variety of offerings, newsletters, websites, educational webinars to their membership. And they do receive funding from the STC office based on their membership numbers. And that funding is used to support the many services and programs they provide. So the SIG communities of practice are technical editing, instructional design and learning, and the policies and procedures. And the SIG COPs are managed by a leadership team. Now the SIG communities of interest, this is an exciting new option for STC members. And I think it was really first available during last year's membership renewal season, and it's of course still available. So this communities of interest focus on sharing information via a social media platform. And STC is providing all SIG COIs the STC Slack workspace as the social media platform. And we did have a webinar yesterday with Todd DeLuca, who discussed the STC Slack workspace. And Erin Galilee will be sending that out to all SIG community of interest facilitators. So if you don't receive it, like within a week, please contact us. Now, the SIG COIs are also welcome to offer programming or other services, but that's optional. The baseline and the mission for communities of interest is to initiate and moderate discussions around the TechCom topic. So there are several communities of interest, and they include Agile, accessibility, consulting and independent contracting, lone writer, health and medicine. So there's quite a few. And the SIG community of interest are managed by a facilitator or a co-facilitator. So since the SIGs are a bit different, not all the information in this webinar will apply to SIG COIs. I will note the differences during the webinar, but it's important to note that, however, whether you're a COP leader or a COI leader, it's important to plan. And so for brevity, because we have a lot of acronyms here, I will refer to both types as simply SIGs, unless I need to clarify during the webinar. Now, I do see, Aaron, that there's one question, so perhaps from Paula, maybe I'll answer that before we continue. Let's see.
Okay, it was asking if the participants could all chime in with the names and whether they're a COI or a COP facilitator, just so they can see what groups they're active with.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the whole question.
It was if there was an appropriate point either during the presentation, or I was even thinking maybe before Q&A, just for everybody to be able to say which groups which SIG they're affiliated with, whether it's COP or COI in the name of their group, just so people are knowing who is in the webinar and who they're involved with.
Okay, yes, we can definitely do that. That's a good idea. And we'll do that, yeah, after the presentation and before we go into Q&A. Good suggestion, thank you. So our topics today, we're going to talk about strategy plan components, talking about the planning meeting, communicating your goals to your membership and beyond, how you're going to monitor your progress, and some resources that are available to you. So we could ask the first question, what's the best strategy plan for SIGs? And the good news is there isn't one plan. For an effective strategy plan for your community, of course, it should be user-friendly. And by that, I mean that you should be actually using the plan throughout the year to help you plan and monitor your progress. And of course, it should meet your own community's needs. So as I mentioned before, all STC SIGs are really unique because they all focus on one specific topic. But you also can have other differences. You can have numbers of members, their experiences. So you definitely want to have a plan that fits your needs. In this presentation today, I'm offering just one approach, an approach that I used to manage SIGs. And I just want you to know, you take this information and make it your own. Think of it as basically a starting point and a roadmap for your own community. So the components, first of all, there's the scope, and the strategy plans that I have developed cover 1 year. Now there are plans that cover 2 or 3 years, but I have found that a yearly plan works well. And if you are interested in a multi-year plan or want to explore that, we did have a strategy planning for chapters panel discussion earlier this month. It was recorded, and M.K. Gruenberg discussed the Chicago chapter's approach, and they do use a 2-year strategy plan. Again, though, it's very based on your community. Not all chapters use a 2-year plan. The next thing you want to look at is the timing. I suggest soon after the new COP or the COI leadership is installed. Now for the policies and procedures SIG, we had done ours traditionally at the beginning of the year. Last year we did it the first week of February. But some SIGs install their leadership in the middle of the year or at different times, so you don't necessarily need to follow a calendar year. And then lastly, for attendees, I suggest just the leadership team to keep it focused. I think it's more manageable when you have just your core team. Plus, as we know, we're virtual groups, so we're going to be having a virtual meeting. So it's easier to have just the planners and the decision makers there. Now, I did put a little asterisk at the end of leadership team because some communities of interest facilitators may also have a leadership team on their own, a smaller one. Like for instance, they may have a facilitator and then someone who's a social media manager. But again, all the communities of interest really need to have is a facilitator or a co-facilitator. And I just want you to know that if you are in a SIG COI and you are I know we have some co-facilitators here listening, or a sole facilitator, the CAC team member can assist you. It's always good if you want to have just a sounding board or someone, just to attend a brief session or meeting and discuss some ideas. We're here to help you. So just contact me. I have the contact information at the end of our slide deck. So, please feel free to reach out. Now, the last two components, first will be the goals. And I think of the goals as your vision for the year. What do you want to accomplish? What's your mission? And of course, to be effective, they should be specific. And we all know the acronym SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And I'll go into those just briefly, that acronym on the next slide. But I also keep, when you write your goals, I should say, consider for your COPs, communities of practice, consider your available funding, your approved budget. That's a big part of what goals will be able to achieve. And for both COPs and COIs, consider the volunteer support you can count on to meet your goals. I recently read a book on small business ownership, and where the author said to be successful, you must plan with your actual funds and staffing. Not projected funding, because as it may not materialize, and not future staffing, because you may not have the money to implement your plans or hire that additional staff. So the same can be said for your strategy plan. Plan with the actual volunteers you have, and you can always expand your activities if you have additional members to volunteer. And then I suggest a maximum of 3 goals, because I believe 3 goals, you can keep it attainable and manageable that way. Sometimes I see, some, let's say, planning and groups, they write a lot of goals. And I think it's because they're mixing goals and activities, and they're two very different things. So many of you already know the difference between the two, but it is an important point. So I do want to just briefly discuss this. Again, I'll point to a webinar that I had attended, and this webinar was on creating a business plan. And the presenter provided this really very interesting and I think clear explanation. So the presenter was very accomplished. He was one of his accomplishments was a former Pepperidge Farm CEO. And so he was now a consultant who helped businesses in the food industry. So he had a client who had a new food product, and he was trying to, get his product on the grocery store shelves. So the presenter asked the man about his goals, and the businessman replied that he was doing just fine. He hired an expensive salesperson who was having several meetings a month with all these different stores. There's a lot of activity. And then the presenter just asked a very simple question. He said, okay, how many stores are selling your product? And the man had to reply, none. So holding meetings was the activity, but the actual goal was placing the product on the grocery store shelves. So you can use that analogy to your own planning. If you're having a planning that you want to increase the awareness of your SIG, that's a goal. And then one of the actions to achieve your goal might be we're going to sponsor a meet and greet, or we're going to hold a virtual open house. So the last component is our activities. So if I said the goals are your vision or your mission, your end result, then the activities are how you're going to reach your goals, almost like your little marching orders. Again, you want them to be specific, but keep them at a high level. You don't want any detailed steps. That's for another time. That's for the actual implementation of the action. So to stay with our example, if you decide to have a virtual meet and greet to increase awareness of your SIG, that's your activity. You wouldn't at this time go into the planning of it, of how, setting dates or who's going to post it and those types of things. Again, I think it's better to focus on the quality rather than the quantity. So I recommend a maximum of 4 activities. Again, that keeps it attainable and manageable for you. So now I just want to briefly show you a sample of some goals and activities. I'm not going to go over all this information. I just want to touch on some points. I specifically made a goal example for your SIG COIs. So to show that it's very possible to, create goals for communities of interest. So here I just said increase member participation in SIG COI discussions. And then there's some of the activities. So it's specific, and here are some of the activities that that a SIG COI might do to increase that participation. Again, it's very measurable, right? If you invite new members, you'll know exactly how many are responding. And then goal 2 talks about educational opportunities to members. And this SIG said, well, we'll host 4 quarterly webinars. Again, this is very specific. They just didn't say, oh, we're going to host some webinars. I guess, again, attainable. I'm assuming that the leadership decided with the volunteers available and their funding that they could easily hold 4 quarterly webinars. And then last, the goal 3 is collaboration with other STC communities to improve member services. Again, it's specific, and all these goals are relevant to increasing the membership or to increase the value of the communities. And the last point on the SMART acronym is time bound. Now, a lot of these are ongoing, so if you had a yearly plan, you would say that most of these would be measured within 1 year. Of course, the quarterly webinars, you would be measuring them every quarter. So now we've discussed the components. Now it's time to plan. Time to have the meeting and create your plan and have some post-meeting responsibilities or activities that you would need to follow. So here, it's always good to do some pre-work, or prep work prior to the planning meeting. So your COP manager or COI facilitator, you would schedule the meeting, and I have here ideally 1 to 1.5 hours, but work with your participants' availability. So we all know that free time is at a premium. In addition to be volunteers, we all have jobs, we have our families, we have our other interests. So it's good to be aware of the time, and also be aware of our medium or the platform we're using. So we're going to be at a virtual meeting, and we all know, I think we've been on those really long virtual meetings, and they're hard. They're hard to keep your attention, and they stop being productive after a while. You know, the chapters have an advantage pre-COVID that they could have in-person meetings, and some of the chapters would have a full day. They'd meet on a Saturday, they would plan, they would have some socializing, they'd have a nice lunch catered in. So there you have planning, but then it's separated with activity and movement. But when you have just a virtual meeting, you really want to keep it, let's say, focused. And I also prefer to have one meeting versus multiple meetings, because again, we all know how difficult it is to schedule one meeting. Um, if you have to have some follow-up meetings, uh, you lose your momentum. And so sometimes things don't get completed because not everyone can meet again. So there's a way, though, you can build more time into your meeting, and that is by sending out some information that you would ask the leaders to review and be prepared to discuss. So I do send an agenda. I create an agenda and I do send one out. Also, if you're with a community of practice, um, send out the approved budget or the link to your approved budget, because that's where you're going to show where you're actually going to spend your funds. And also, as a reminder, that you did complete the engagement plan tab, and that includes a lot of activities that you plan to hold. So that's a good starting point to help you start finalizing your goals. And then last year's planning meeting minutes. Again, I do take meeting minutes because I think it's good. Who's going to remember after 1 year some of the important discussions that you had? I think it's helpful. And then any other items that would help you help finalize your goals. For instance, some SIGs, they like to do a yearly survey. So that's something you would definitely want to include, or any feedback that you get from your membership. And then I also ask the participants to come to the meeting thinking about what they want to see done in the upcoming year. So they should become prepared with 1 or 2 goals. So then at the meeting, I do like to start the meeting with a brief, quick icebreaker activity. And if time allows, I really suggest you do something like that. I know you might say, well, all the leaders already know each other. That's true, but it's nice to have um, a social time and be able to know a colleague, perhaps outside of the STC environment. Learn a little bit about them. And especially this is helpful for new members, because sometimes with the virtual groups, we don't meet in person unless you're going to the summit, and a new person may feel awkward or a little unsure of who they know. So um, it's helpful. So then you would want to review the previous year. That means you're going to look at your goals from last year and the activities that you had planned to meet your goals, and review their outcome. Then also you want to check other projects and activities that may have fallen outside of the goals. And then, look at what went well. I think sometimes we get, kind of caught up in what we need to do, or some of the things that perhaps didn't meet your expectations. But please take time to pat yourselves on the back. Uh, Really think about the positive things, that all that you've done, uh, things that went well. Take time to acknowledge that. And then, think about your challenges and trends and any surprises. And I think we all had quite a surprise in 2020. As we know, situations can change, and quite significantly. So a good, thorough understanding of the previous year helps you plan. So now, we're going to get to the heart of the meeting, and that is the first is you're going to work on your goals. So you're going to write the goals, and I say start with a brief brainstorming session. And so you list all your potential goals. This is not a time for critiquing or editing. It's okay to carry over some goals. And I suggest that you do time the session, because as we know, once you get talking and brainstorming, it's easy to lose track of time. So again, you want to identify all the possible goals that you might want to work on. And then the next step is you want to vote. So you're going to select, again, the top 3 goals, and then refine or edit the goals, kind of wordsmith them if you think they need to be more aligned with perhaps the SMART acronym. Now, I want to say that if you find that you're crunched for time, you can complete this step outside your meeting, because the most important thing is to identify your goals and agree upon them, and even your activities and agree upon them, and then do the wordsmithing outside of the meeting, and then hold a virtual vote if you want on the final plan. So then once you have your goals, now you want to look at how you're going to reach them, right? So now you're going to identify the activities that support your goals. Again, you're going to brainstorm, list all the potential activities. You're not going to edit or critique at this point. And you also are, of course, going to time this session. Then you'll vote and select 1 to 4 activities per goal. And then again, if there's time, refine or finalize the wording. If not, do that outside the meeting. And just as a reminder, SIG COPs, you do want to remember your budget for this. It include also your big budget items, and then volunteer support for SIG COPs and COIs. So now you have completed your strategy plan, and it is a really important and valuable tool for you to use as leaders or facilitators. You can use this to strengthen your community, gain volunteers, engage your membership, and hopefully also increase your numbers. But it's also time to share your goals. And by goal sharing, I would say start, of course, with your membership, so they know what to expect for the upcoming year, and get them excited too. I'm sure now that you've planned, you've got all these great goals, you're excited about what you're going to do for your community. Now it's time to share and get your membership excited. And also with the COPs, now they know their expectations regarding their membership dues. And like I said, sharing your vision, it strengthens your community, and you may attract new volunteers if they see goals that they feel that are powerful and interesting for them. So once you talk to your SIG membership, don't stop with them. Share your goals with the larger STC community. And, don't assume that STC members already know about your SIG, that they know there's an instructional design and learning. They know there is an agile or accessibility or a lone writer SIG. STC has many options and services for their members. And so sometimes you just have to go out there and spread the word. And you may get, let's say, new volunteers or even new members. For instance, if someone outside your SIG sees that one of your goals is to provide career mentorship, they may be very interested in that if they're thinking about changing careers. So they'll join your SIG. And then lastly, talk to people and spread the word beyond STC membership, where appropriate. Right now, there's a lot of technical communication courses and programs in colleges. Perhaps that's where you would want to go and communicate with your goals. A lot of community colleges now are starting to have programs. So here are some ways that the SIGs I've worked with have helped spread the word. So of course, you want to introduce the new membership, and it's a good time to also introduce your goals. Use your website and social media. Want to have a virtual open house. For COPs, a virtual annual business meeting. According to our management manual, SIG COPs should be having an annual business meeting. An in-person summit. Hopefully we'll have one in 2022 where you could have an annual business meeting if you're a COP. And also there's the opening ceremony, which is a lot of fun. And perhaps now with our new COI option, we can also bring you into the opening ceremony. And if you haven't been to the summit in person, I know from the attendees that several attendees here on our webinar have. It's just a really nice time. You go to the vendor space and there's lots of hors d'oeuvres and it's a happy hour and there's cocktails or beverages, and then everyone socializes. And the special interest group COPs have an information table there where they can introduce themselves to the larger STC community. Because as a virtual group, that's probably the only place, unless you have geographical meetups, where you would meet in person. And then, of course, don't forget that end of year announcement, right? Wrap it up. People forget all the things that have been done. List your major activities and accomplishments and tie them into your goals. So now the last topic I want to touch on is to monitor your progress. In other words, now you have a plan, now you have to work your plan. One thing I'd like to do is I'd like to assign goal identifiers to the activities and projects. It's very easy to monitor that way. So example, scheduled virtual open house. Oh, goal number 1. And this is another reason why you really want to focus on the number of goals, keep them at a minimum, and the number of activities. Because it's very hard to track, it's very cumbersome to track 10, 15 goals or 20, 25 activities or 6 or 7 activities. You can tie in monitoring at your SIG leader meetings, or you can periodically, as leaders, confirm you're on track and adjust as needed. And I do suggest that you perform a formal or an official mid-year review of your goals and your progress. And I say that because half the year has gone through, and now I'm not particularly talking about a calendar year. Again, whatever year you have planned your project plan, because it's enough time that you can either turn some goals around or readjust. It gives you time to still meet your goals. And finally, there's several resources available to you. So for CAC support, you can contact me. And again, the CAC is a volunteer team, Community Affairs Committee, if that acronym is new to you. And it consists of STC leaders and volunteers, and we're here to help support the community leadership any way we can. For STC support, you can contact Erin Galilee, Director of Membership and Community Relations, and there is her email address. Erin has some great ideas and advice. If you're looking for a sounding board for STC, she's one of STC's treasures. And we also, of course, have a CAC website. And so it has all kinds of information on previous webinars that have been recorded, handouts, checklists, but also we have something new, and it's called the CAC Outreach Chart. And perhaps you've heard me talk about this before, but it's located on Leadership Resources, and I think it's the first or second option. This is new. We created it, the team and I, in November we launched it. And I'm excited about this option because it gives you as leaders access to the entire CAC team. And like I said before, we have experienced leaders. They've done programming, they've done regional conferences, recruitment, succession planning. If you're looking for new ideas or just a sounding board, please reach out to that chart. All you have to do is click on a name of the team member and they'll contact you. So it's nice to have, I like to brag about the team a bit. I think they're passionate about STC and communities, and they're very experienced. So it's a really nice resource to have. And of course, leadership resources, and that's on the STC Member Center tab. So now, thank you very much for attending. Again, on behalf of the CAC and Erin Galilee and myself, thank you very much for taking time. And also thank you for volunteering, because your contributions are really making the community SIG experience possible for really hundreds of STC members. So that is something to be commended, and we greatly appreciate that. And now we'll open up for Q&A and discussion. And I think we'll start with, I think it was Paula's suggestion that if we introduce each other, and that's a good idea. And I also want you to know that probably in late February, early March, I would like to schedule, if we want to call it a COI facilitator meet and greet or follow up, just for the facilitators to get together and because many of you don't have leadership teams, to talk, and the CAC will sponsor that. So look forward to that probably in the next month or so. But now I'm going to turn this over, I guess, to Erin. And Erin, do you want to instruct the attendees and how we want to introduce ourselves?
Sure, and I think Paula just had a suggestion. She just did what I was going to suggest, which is if everybody just wants to type, their name and what SIGs they're representing today in the questions tab, I can read those out just so it's exactly the way you want to be introduced out to the group. That would be great. So I'm going to start with Paula because she was first. She's Paula Robinson with the Solo Technical Communicator SIG Manager, also previously known as Lone Writer.
And I would say, while we wait for the others to come, yeah, Paula has been a long time leader in that important SIG, because I think many of us now are either going out on our own or becoming solo departments.
And I have Teresa Robertson Pope, who's the co-facilitator for the COI Agile. Suzette Boltz, who's co-facilitating the Agile COI. Marcia Shannon is here today, who's the immediate past manager for the IDO, membership manager and tech editing. And Destiny Louise Dudley is the new manager for instructional design and learning.
Great.
Jamie
Okay.
Sagan. Oh, I have. They're jumping right down. Jamie Sagan is IDL COP treasurer, but also belongs to tech editing COP, PMP, COP, and Lowrider COI. Oh, and she's a member of the CAC team too. Yes, she is. So she is one of those resources that you will see in that section that Ann Marie alluded to for help.
Okay, and while we're waiting for more people to introduce themselves, I just wanted to say that thank you, Suzette and Teresa. They're the new Agile SIG co-facilitators. So now we have a nice co-facilitator arrangement. And so they're new to volunteering. And so we welcome them. And I know that I think Destiny is the new leader for IDL. So welcome, Destiny. And I know Marcia Shannon from our technical editing days and another longtime leader within the community. So welcome, Marcia. And of course, Jamie Sagan, yes, is a CAC member.
And Ann Wiley is here representing UUX and accessibility, but she belongs to all of the SIGs, and I know that she has been a valuable resource for many of our groups, our communities.
Yes, definitely. I second that Ann, is, I'm sure a lot of you know Ann. Again, a passionate supporter of STC and its communities, and the leader for UAX. So thank you, Ann, for everything. And have I missed anyone?
No, not yet. I'm responding with the thanks, just hopefully that this is making it visible for people if it hasn't been so already, because it says shows answered questions. So I'm just typing in a thanks so it can be seen by everyone so people can have it for their own reference.
Good.
And Jamie had just said that having some sort of a COI COP meetup would be great. It would be excellent.
Okay, because I know that we just started really rolling out Slack, so we might wait just a little bit to see if, once people have used it, and then have that. But what I'll do is I'll send out a doodle poll first to see what date and time is arranged for everyone, because I know we're all in different time zones. So are there any questions? And I think, and everyone has been introduced. Well, then I just have a quick question. I'll turn the tables here and I'll ask questions of you. How many people right now have done, it doesn't have to be a formal strategy plan, but have done some sort of strategy with their communities, whether it's just, writing some goals or, yeah, I guess, where are you in the strategy plan journey here?
Teresa Robertson Pope says she is a newbie, brand new.
Okay. Right.
Which is great.
And Marcia has a good tip, because I know also I asked about if anybody had techniques or tips for sharing. And this is mostly for COPs at this point, but the CAA application is a useful starting point to identify goals and activity possibilities, definitely. So even if you don't plan on submitting a CAA this year, just take a look at the application, because it does I should say organize activities into like programming, into recruitment, succession planning. So it's a nice tool. Thanks for bringing that up, Marcia.
Yes, and Paula just said that she said, I guess I just did it during your presentation. So that's great.
Oh, good. Good to hear. Thank you. All right. Well, then I think we're going to stop here because I don't think we have any other more questions. But again, please, the CAC, this CAC, please check our website out and contact me for any questions that you may have. And of course, contact Erin also. And then, try out our CAC outreach chart. So again, thank you very much for attending today, for your contributions, for your passion, for TechCom and for STC. And I think, we've been through a lot with COVID. I think everyone personally has been affected, but, I think we're going to have a great year. 2021 is going to be our nice turnaround year for everyone. So I wish you well, and I hope to see you at one of our next webinars. Thank you.